That's why we're here today. Next slide. So we want to break it down in text of the over 1 million cases of HIV and AIDS reported. You can see blacks accounted for 43% of that total. 60% of the women with HIV, 55%, 59% person from heterosexual contacts, 60% of children, and most of them born from women who are HIV positive. Latinos, 70% of the total. Almost 20% of women with HIV. 21% heterosexual, 90% of children. Again, why we're here today. Next slide. I hope I'm not depressing, but I just want to make it clear what we're dealing with. And for me, as a man who likes challenges, this is just another challenge that we have to overcome. Next slide. Oh, I'm sorry. Stop. This slide I have to talk about because to put it another way, this shows what the prevalence of HIV by race and sex. And I'd like to point to these columns, Black and Hispanic Latino again. If you look at the numbers, this is what's called the prevalence of race, meaning how many people per 100,000. It's really just a math game. Those who are good at math, you can divide quickly. If you look at black men who are in blue, the tallest line, 2,000 per 100,000. If you do the math, you set that fraction up, that equals 1 out of 50 black men is HIV positive in the United States. 1 out of 50. If I take a room full of 50 black men, one of them's going to be HIV positive in the United States. Okay? Granted, this is in different pockets, populations, and areas, but you take the numbers across the board. Among black women, the red line, 1,000 per 100,000. Who can do the math? That's 1 out of 100 black women. If you look at Latino men, the blue line, under Hispanic Latino, 800 per 100,000. Almost 1,000. You can say almost 100, 1 out of 100 Latino men is HIV positive. Latino women, significantly less, but 1 out of 500. But definitely more than the white population is reported. Next slide. Now, why is that? There's multiple explanations. Self-esteem, we'll talk about that briefly. The idea of women who may have lower self-esteem, placing themselves at risk in relationships that may be dangerous, willing to have sex with people who may not, or willing to have sex without a condom in order to stay in a relationship, have sex earlier or with more partners, again, because of possibly related self-esteem. But there's also this issue. What you're looking at is a slide from a study looking at men who have sex with men. It was showing that among two populations, black and Latino, a certain percentage in the orange line, these are men who have sex with men, but they're also, the orange line represents a percentage of those who also have sex with women. Quote unquote down low, meaning that they may have sex with women, but also with men. Showing that in those populations, even black and Latino populations, due to cultural reasons, many men who may be gay or may have sex with men don't disclose that to their female partners. What that does is may put them at risk for HIV, getting HIV, because of the population they may be dealing with, or the fact that they may be having unsafe sex on the side, or unknowingly their partners may not protect themselves, not knowing that their man may be having risky behavior. Next slide. Now, I want you to talk about STDs also, and I briefly wanted to show you a couple statistics. Unfortunately, they're not any better or happy. This is a slide showing Los Angeles County. This is home. And this is great for chlamydia. most prevalent STD in the world, not in our country. And if you look at the gray line, what those represent, you can see this. Gray represents African American women. These are women, females, in Los Angeles County. Blue represents Latinas. And the red represents whites. You can see African Americans, especially younger African American women, between the ages of 15 and 24, have the highest rates of chlamydia in Los Angeles County. Second, Latina, between the ages of 15 and 24. Extremely high compared to other races. Next slide. Look at where is it? This is a breakdown from the Los Angeles County Department of Public Health. In fact, any of you can look this up on the internet. Go to LA County Department of Public Health, look up chlamydia, gonorrhea, and all this. They publish it every year. But if you look at a map of Los Angeles County, does anyone know where we are? Right here. Spot 6. Right in the middle, spot 6. You see spot 6 has, unfortunately, the highest rates of chlamydia. So any of you with daughters who may talk about having sex, your next conversation should be condoms. I hope. Because it's there. And the daughters aren't getting chlamydia from a toilet seat. They're not getting it from, their panties being too tight. Okay? Next slide. Gonorrhea. Gonorrhea. Wow. That's gonorrhea. Out. Same thing. Okay. Last. Young women, highest. Latina second place. Next slide. Syphilis. Fortunately, blacks and Latinos, we're leading the way in this. Not the race I want to be winning, right? These are women. Again. And so the reason I'm showing these statistics is that to let everyone know that we have a problem. We have to be aware of what's out there. For all of you as women, all of you as mothers, grandmothers, etc. Next slide. Let's move back on HIV testing. One of the important things about HIV is that HIV is a fatal disease if it is not treated. The way to treat HIV is to diagnose HIV. And in order to diagnose HIV, you have to test for HIV. In order to get tested, you have to agree to get tested or want to get tested. How many people in the room have ever been tested for HIV? Ever. Ever in their life. Very good. Have ever had a test for HIV? God, my dad. Okay. Who's been tested? How's that? Okay. Well, you can now test yourself at home without going to the doctor. Oh, for real? The FDA approved in May OraSure, a home HIV test, which you do with a swab in your mouth. You can go to your local Walgreens, buy the test, go home and test yourself. Okay? Even though you can test pretty much in most public health clinics, many places in the United States. Right here, you can test today. In fact, go outside and get tested. Okay? But it is free. This one you have to spend your own money. And I think it's a good thing. There are some misgivings about home testing because the issue is that people may go home and test themselves and not know what that test means. If that test is not a confirmatory test, that test is a preliminary test. That means you might have HIV, you need to get a real test, blood to prove it. And they've made that very clear that with this test, there has to be literature that tells people if you test positive, this is what you need to do. There's an 800 number, 24/7. That's man who can answer questions. The problem is someone make a home test themselves, and if they don't know anything about HIV, lose it, really. Either hurt themselves or go, kill somebody. They get it. But I think the stand testing is important. Next slide. And the reason why, because testing is important. We have multiple tests that can do rapid tests, like these. And they're all very nice. Next slide. But the issue is that we have a large percent of people who are undiagnosed. Look at transmission categories, almost 20%, 15% across the board of people in certain groups don't even know they have HIV. They've never been tested. Next slide. And we know that 20 to 25% are responsible for more than half of new HIV infections because these people don't know. So they're having sex and don't know that they have HIV. The problem I have is the other 75% who do know, who are some of my patients, who still go out and have sex and don't protect other people and still infect others. That's where self-esteem, the idea of, I need to know what's going on. I'm going to protect myself comes into play. Next slide. And we know that HIV now is a chronic, controllable disease. If you look at this slide, it actually shows over the past 15 years, the increase in lifespan in years of a person with HIV. And the blue line at the bottom is from 2005. Now we know people with HIV who live 40, 50 years after diagnosis. Okay? 40 to 50 years. And we don't know how long. I have people in my clinic who are in their 60s and 70s who have had HIV for 20 years. And they're doing great. Next slide. But we won't know those people unless we test them and use them in the care. We know that HIV is controlled in pregnancy. I just point your attention to this graph which shows the rates of perinatally acquired HIV or AIDS in infants from a pregnant mother. You see that in 1990, when we started treating pregnant women with HIV medicine, the number of infants with HIV dropped. Right now, the chance of a woman delivering an HIV-positive baby is less than 2% on medication. In fact, in LA County, the Maternal and Child Family Clinic at USC, they have not had a positive baby in almost 10 years. I know this for a fact. Because when they get women into care, give them good support, give them my medicines, their babies are going to be fine. And for any woman who is HIV positive or becomes HIV positive, not only will you live a full, healthy life, but you can have children, have a family, and go on and do what you need to do. As long as you get care, take care of yourself, be responsible, take your medicine, you'll be fine. Next slide. And why do we need to test? Because we need to start treatment on people who have HIV. The new guidelines this year said that all people with HIV should be put on treatment. Before we used to wait until the person's immune system or their CD4 count or T cells drop to a certain level. It is now recommended to start at whatever level. Because now we know medicine is good. We know the benefits of treating HIV from the beginning. Next slide. You don't know unless you test. We have over 30 medicines to treat HIV now. A combination of those in a cocktail. We really only use the newer medicines now, which have very good side effects and are very effective. Next slide. And we've gone from one hand to the other. Treatment now is so much easier than before. Anyone who's been in this business a long time knows exactly what I'm talking about. Handfuls of pills 2 or 3 times a day, now to 1 pill once a day. So get up and take your vitamin, take your aspirin, get out of the business, control your HIV.